Right. Battery ran out and thing, you know. That's where he resided, in Mount Seir. See, so when you hear the buzzword Mount Seir, that means Esau. Okay? And let's find out what this perpetual says here, because they had a perpetual hatred. So perpetual says what? Ceaseless. A ceaseless hatred. A constant hatred. A continual hatred. A continuous hatred. An endless hatred. Eternal hatred. Everlasting hatred. Incessant. Infinite hatred. Interminable hatred, never ending, paternal hatred, permanent hatred, sempiternal, can't pronounce that, man, unceasing hatred, unfailing, uninterrupted. Right, so that's today. They still got that same spirit, man. You know, that they hate us, man. They hate us, but it's all under, because the Most High put it in there, man. That's what you got to realize, man. So all you people want to be friendly. Yeah, they even got a saying called racial tolerance. They don't have to like you, because you're around them. They tolerate you, man. That's what they mean. Yeah, don't have to like you. Even their so-called words, what they tell you, is a so-called racist. They call it is racist. Anyway, it says here, the general says here, General Epps ordered troops of white civilians to stop killing. He, the general, will not specify all the instances that he was bound to believe have occurred, but passed in silence what has happened, with the expression of his deepest sorrow that any necessity should be supposed to have existed. It says here, to justify a single act of atrocity, but he feels himself bound to declare and hereby announce to the troops and citizens that no excuse will be allowed for any similar acts of violence after the proclamation of his order. Okay, that means broadcast. Look at the word proclamation. It means to broadcast. So it says here, after the broadcast of his order. So he didn't want nobody getting down on these niggas no more after he set this order. But he can't be everywhere. You know that niggas was getting lynched. Anyway, it says here, in a letter to the Evening Post, revered G.W. Powell wrote that many Negroes are killed every day. The exact number will never be known. Just like the slave trade, man, from the Atlantic slave trade. They said that over, 100 million Negroes died from that Atlantic slave trade, man. More, it's probably more, but like I said, they can't count them in it, so they just estimate. So if they say 100 million, you know it's like 200 million plus. You know what I mean? And it says here, a company of militia from Hertford County, that's another place in England, says here, North Carolina reportedly killed 40 blacks in one day and took $23 and a gold watch from the dead. Captain Solon Borland, who led a contingent from Murfreesboro, North Carolina, condemned the acts because it was tantamount. It was tantamount to theft. See, these words you got to look up. Tantamount means equal. It was equal to theft. That's what he's saying. Because it was tantamount or equal to theft from the white owners of the slaves. Blacks suspected of participating in a rebellion were beheaded by the militia. Their severed heads were mounted on poles at crossroads as a grisly form of intimidation. You see, the same way like Nat Turner would intimidate them by using hatchets. Reverse psychology, man. You know what I mean? They would do the same. Right, let's go into some of the scriptures again, man. Right, let's get Zechariah 1 and 15. Zechariah 1 and 15. Zechariah 1 and 15. And it reads, I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. Right, so he's saying here that the Most High said, I'm very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. So the Most High said, like, he was displeased with us, man. Yes, that's why he put us in slavery. But the heathen forwarded it, our affliction, man. You know, the things they done to us was outrageous, man. I mean, so the Lord, he has to pay them back, man. It's payback. What goes around, it's karma, and that's what they say, karma. What goes around comes around, man. So that's why we're in the times of this so-called Edomite. His retribution, man. You know, it's time for him to feel the pain, man. Lamentations. Let's get that. Let's get it. Have I got that on here? I haven't got it on here, but let's get that. Lamentations, man. Lament means to have sorrow, man. To have sorrows. And the Lord said that, man. Let's get it. Lamentations, man. Let's get it, man. Lamentations, man. Lamentations, man. Let's get it. What is it? Lamentations. Let's read this one first. It says Lamentations 4 and 22. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. I will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquities, O daughter of Edom. Edom is the so-called Edomite, the white man. Today he's called European. Yeah, that's Esau, the Edomite. And it says here, O daughter of Edom, he will discover thy sins. Okay. And where's the one I want? Lamentations, where it tells you that the cup. Is that 4 and 20? Is that 21? 5 and. No, this is Lamentations 4 and 21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee, and thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. So the Lord said that cup, the cup is the cup of trembling. It's slavery. So he says that cup's going to turn onto Esau, man. It's what they done to his people, man. You know? They put his people in slavery, man. We're still in slavery, man. Let's read on. And it says here, it says, it got a caption, it says the retaliation, it says the aftermath. This is after the suppression, you know, after they'd got that turn up. It says here, The rebellion was quashed within 48 hours. In the aftermath of the revolt, 48 black men and black women were tried on charges of conspiracy, insurrection, and treason. In total, the state executed 56 people, banished many more, and acquitted a few. The state reimbursed slaveholders for their slaves, so that means they went and got more slaves. You understand? This is whitey for you, this is what he does. But in hysterical climate that followed the rebellion, close to 200 black people were killed by white militias and mobs. Okay? Hysterical means to panic. Yeah? So when they panicked, you know what I mean? That's what Esau's about, man. When he sees black rising up, he panics. And he goes and kills everything in sight, man. Let's get Revelations. Let's see what that says. Revelations 20 and 4. Revelations 20 and 4. And it reads, I was talking about the beheading. Alright, let's read on. Tell you what, let's get Jeremiah 23 and 1. Jeremiah 23 and 1. Okay, we'll read on. And it says there, turn the, right, it says there, the state reimbursed the slaveholders and for their slaves. But in the panic climate that followed the rebellion, close to 200 black people were killed by white militias and mobs. Turner eluded capture over 2 months. On October the 30th, a white farmer, Benjamin Hips, discovered him in a hole covered with fence rails. Same way Saddam Hussein found in a hole, Colonel Gaddafi, because it tells you that, you know what I mean? That's that sevenfold. They'll hunt you down, man. You know what I mean? Because only the Most High can put his hands first. He wants first dibs, then we get it. You understand? And it says here, Benjamin Hips discovered him, that's Turner, in a hole covered with fence rails, and Turner was then arrested. A trial was quickly arranged. On November the 5th, 1831, Nat Turner was tried for conspiring to rebel and making insurrection, convicted and sentenced to death. He was hanged on November the 11th in Jerusalem, Virginia. You see, Jerusalem, you know. Jerusalem, Virginia, man. He was hanged in Jerusalem, Virginia. Okay. Turner's corpse was flayed. Flayed means stripped of his skin. Yeah. He was flayed, beheaded, and quartered. Right, so fly means stripped. He was stripped of his skin, they chopped off his head, and they quartered him. To draw and quarter means to cut into 4 parts. So they made sure this Negro weren't coming back, man. He had them shook. They skinned him, they beheaded him, and they cut him into 4 pieces. And it says here, after Turner's capture, a local lawyer, Thomas Ruffin Gray, wrote and published The Confessions of Nat Turner. You can get this is a book you can get. And it says, the leader of the late insurrection in Southampton, Virginia. The book was a result both of Gray's research while Turner was in hiding and of his conversations with Turner before the trial. The document remains the primary window into Turner's mind. Because of the author's obvious conflict of interest, historians disagree on whether to assess it as insight into Gray's rather than Turner. In 1967, US writer William Cyron used Gray's work to create a Pulitzer Prize winner novel, The Confessions of Nat Turner. It's another book you can get. Or is that the same one? Let's have a look. Right, it's Confessions of Nat Turner, yeah? And it says this is the legal response. It says here, in the aftermath of Turner's slave rebellion, dozens of suspected rebels were tried in courts called specifically for the purpose of hearing the cases against the slaves. Most of the trial took place in Southampton, but some were held in neighbouring Sussex. That's another county in England, but this is America, Sussex County, as well as a few other counties. Most slaves were found guilty. Many of them were executed. Some of those found guilty were deported outside the state but not executed. 13 of the slaves tried in Southampton were found guilty. The following spring in Richmond, another place in England, this is Richmond, the Virginia General Assembly, this is Virginia, Richmond in Virginia, the Virginia General Assembly debated the future of the slavery in the states. While some urged gradual emancipation means freedom, gradual freedom. Well, it wasn't freedom, it was transportation from the south to the north, to the Industrial Revolution. And it says here that the pro-slavery side won. The legislation passed new legislation making it unlawful to teach slaves, right, free blacks or mulattoes to read or write. So that's why they you see in the when you look at the force like that, Negroes, they don't know where the fuck they come from, because that all goes all the way back, because they allowed us to read at one stage, but when they found out how intelligent we got by reading, they said, look, we got to dumb them down, man. Them Negroes have got to be apes, man. The equivalent of apes, man, eating bananas and stuff like that, in that sense, you know what I mean? They had us dumbed down, man. And it says here, legislation passed, new legislation making it unlawful to teach slaves, free blacks and mulattoes to read or write. The General Assembly also passed a law restricting all blacks from holding religious meetings without the presence of a licensed white master. That's your church today. That's where you get your church today, teaching the slave masters his doctrine. Other slaveholding states across the South enacted similar laws restricting activities of slaves and free blacks. So they had modern day now restricting them is ghettos. They've got Negroes in ghettos with the so-called white policeman patrolling them. Same thing. Nothing new under the sun. And it says there, some free blacks chose to move their families north to obtain education for their children. Some individual white people, like teachers Thomas J. Jackson, later better known as Stonewall Jackson, and Mary Smith Peake, chose to violate the laws and teach slaves to read. Overall, the laws enacted in the aftermath of the Turner Rebellion enforced widespread illiteracy among slaves. That means they couldn't read and write. It persisted. 35 years later, most newly freed slaves and many free blacks in the South were illiterate at the end of the American Civil War. Right, and it says here, freemen and Northerners considered the issue of education and helping former slaves gain literacy as one of the most critical in the post-war South. Consequently, many Northern religious organizations, former Union Army officers and soldiers, and wealthy philanthropists were inspired to create a fund and fund the educational effort specifically for the betterment of African Americans in the South. For Hebrew Israelites, let's get that right. We ain't no fucking Africans, you know about it. Within the Freeman's Bureau, the African Missionary Association, the AMA, it should be the I or the HIA, the Hebrew Israelite, the HIA, Hebrew Israelite Association, yeah, led the effort to establish basic schools for elementary learning and create normal schools to train teachers. Examples of such schools were those historically black colleges that grew to become Hampton University, the Tuskegee University. If you know about the Tuskegee, that's where they done that Tuskegee experiment where they injected the so-called black man with syphilis, man. You can go on a computer and put that in, put in the Tuskegee experiment, and it shows you how, and it was a Negro woman, what they set up to bring the black man to get thingy. It's always that black bitch, man. She's a traitor, man. And it says here, Tuskegee University and AMA confounded a total of 11 colleges in Virginia, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Mississippi, all in the South. This is here. And there were great gains in education, with the majority of Southern blacks achieving literacy by the 1900s, and 30,000 teachers having been trained and put to work in the South. The needs continued to be great, and the black community continued to reach for education after the turn of the 20th century. Agriculture, depression, crop failures, and segregation meant there was little money for states to spend, and they consistently underfunded black education and services. Concerned about consistent underfunding of rural black schools in the South, the entrepreneur and philanthropist Julius Roswell partnered with Dr. Booker T. Washington, that was a Negro, of Tuskegee University to develop a program of matching funds to stimulate community cooperation in building and maintaining new schools. And in the 1920s and 1930s, more than 5,000 schools were built with the assistance from the Rosenwald Fund. Sure, that's a Jew. So there had to be stipulations in that, innit? Other wealthy philanthropists, such as Henry H. Rogers, Andrew Carnegie, and George Eastman, also contributed to historically black colleges and other education initiatives in these decades. Each of the men had risen from modest roots to become wealthy businessmen. Right, and that goes to Black Wall Street. I'll probably bring that out sometime in the future, what happened in Black Wall Street. And it says here, casualties. Historian Stephen B. Oakes notes that Nat Turner had ordered his followers to kill all white people, including women and children. The rebels killed approximately 60 white men, women and children. Most were hacked to death with axes, stabbed or bludgeoned. The most notorious casualty were children. In one instance, Nat Turner and his insurgents stopped a house in Levi Walla where they killed him, his wife and children. 10 of his children were decapitated and their headless bodies piled in the yard. Turner's rebellion resulted in and it says here, Turner's rebellion resulted in fierce white response, motivated by fear and desire for revenge. Planters and white militias throughout the South conducted vigilante justice. That's that Brer Rabbit. When Brer Rabbit can't do it one way, he does it another. You know what I mean? Killing slaves and other persons of African descent, of Israelite descent, many of whom had no connection with the rebellion. The end. Right, so that's the story of Nat Turner, man. Yeah, my hero. Yeah, so it tells you, man, they had a perpetual hatred for us. Yeah, and it continues today. So it's not going to stop until Yahweh Shai makes his second coming, and he takes us out of this captivity. So I'm going to finish with that and like to say all praises to Yahweh Shim Yahweh Shai. Double honors to our elders in New York, yeah, who feed the flock consistently, man, yeah, and all you niggas who got something to say, man, deaf to you, man, yeah, you got the deaf to you niggas, what, man, what got to say something about our elders, man, what push this word, man, you know, what go deep, man, consistently, and they feed the flock, man, consistently, man, right? So double honors to our elders and sanitation to the Akim, then, man. I love you brothers, man. Jonathan and King David love, man, to you brothers what are pushing this word, man, yeah, in sincerity, man, in truth, yeah, and keep pushing this word, man, on the highways and the byways, man. We're nearly out of here, man. Yeah, I mean, we only got to wait for them to go into World War III, man, when they start launching them, well, put it this way, when they go into Syria, man. And brothers, what are in this truth, man, I've got a nice website for, man, to keep you up to date with the what's going on in the Middle East, man. Go on, it's called X22 Report, man. Type that in your on YouTube, yeah, and it gives you an update, man. This man, they tried to shut down his website one time, and the people put an uproar, man. They put it back on, man. He gives you an update what's happening with Obama and the legislation and what they're doing, man. Okay, so shalom to the Israelites, man. Kwam Bakayum, yeah. Rise the elect. Kwam Yasha Allah. Rise Israel. Death to America, man, and death to you Europeans, man, you devils, yeah. And every time I look on the thing, man, and I see that your system's going down, yeah, as a white man says, it tickles me pink, man, you know what I mean, yeah, and I get all fluffy inside, you know what I mean, when I hear about them going down, man. So shalom Israel. Lord willing, I'll be back next week with another one, bringing forth I don't know really what I'm going to go into, but it's another great person of Israel, man. That's what these series is about, man. The great people of Israel. Shalom.